Well, what's up, everyone? It's your adventurer artist, AJ Moore, and this time I'm going to show you a very, very special place to me. It is water on one side and canyon on the other, but you're going to have to see it. So follow me, because it's nature, y'all. This is the place, y'all. Water on one side and a canyon on the other. Exactly what I told you it was. I call this place the Gorge! Let's get to it.
Indeed, let's get to it. If you can still hear properly, I'm your narrator. This vast place that our adventurer calls the Gorge is actually part of the Civil Creek that's approximately 96 miles or 154 kilometers in length. Though it may seem dry, I'm sure he'll find something stirring about. He always does.
So I found this little puddle of water here. And this comes through after a big rain. All this gets filled up, but as it starts drying up in between the rains, it leaves these puddles. And frogs or toads, as it looks like in this case, they like to come here and lay their eggs. And when they hatch, there's thousands of tadpoles in here. But that's not the only thing that's in here. But we're just gonna poke around in here and see what we can find. See this little water beetle right here? This one is called the Diving Beetle.
Diving Beetle.
Now there's 2,000 different species of water beetles, some of which are scavengers, which means they eat decomposing matter like dead critters in the water, vegetation, and even animals' doo-doo. And then the other group are herbivores, which like to just get on plants and just suck out all the juices. And lastly, the third group are carnivores. So they'll eat worms, fish, tadpoles, and they don't even have to wait for it to die either. They can just go out and catch it. And they do have wings, so they can pick up and fly somewhere else if they choose. But they're in here eating all kinds of this little life in here. It's a little ecosystem in here. They have very gregarious behavior. They go crazy when anything approaches. They'll go in all directions. It looks like they're just going out of control. Uh-oh, uh-oh.
These gregarious little beetles, like most beetles, have 4 stages of life. First is the egg, then the larvae, then the pupa, and then finally an adult. They do breathe air, and many species carry captured air bubbles under their elytra, which is the protective wing case. They can stay underwater for many minutes or many hours with that one air bubble. Bloop.
Let me see if I can catch some of these little baby tadpoles. They look like tadpoles.
Tadpole.
These guys are in their early stages. These are probably just hatchlings, maybe a couple days. And it don't take them long. They're gonna start growing little legs, and then they'll grow little arms, like an action figure. Then eventually they'll lose that tail. And they just eat decomposing matter, algae and stuff like that. Any critters that may fall victim of the heat. But they also eat a lot of the algae, like the chlorophyll from the algae. It's really cool finding amphibians like this. There's probably 1 million of them in here because frogs lay so many eggs.
Just so you'll know how to tell the difference between frog tadpoles and toad tadpoles. Well, first of all, let's start with their eggs. A frog spawn of eggs are in big clumps that look like jelly. Toad spawns of eggs are long strings of eggs similar to that of a necklace. Toad tadpoles remain dark in coloration, while frog tadpoles are grayish-green with gold speckles. Well, there you go.
There's a frog. Oh, a frog. Let me try to get him. Oh well. Okay, these guys right here, these are Daphnia.
Daphnia.
They're also called water fleas.
Water fleas.
So these water fleas, what are they, right? So they're small planktonic crustaceans. So they're like plankton that whales eat out in the ocean, and they're translucent so you can see right through them. Now they're filter feeders, so they eat different types of algae, they eat bacteria, and they also eat protists. What is protist? All right, what is protist? Let me break it down for you. Organisms, they have cells with a nucleus, so that includes animals, plants, and fungus. Protists, they also have cells with a nucleus, but they're not considered an animal, a plant, or a fungus. They're in the kingdom all by themselves, and that kingdom is called Protoctista. So that includes amoebas and parameciums and other one-celled organisms. So that's what these guys eat. So like I said, they are filter feeders, which means they filter stuff. So they have two sets of antennas. They have a large set of antennas above, and they have a small set of antennas. The small set of antennas is what they use to filter stuff. There's stuff coming through and they're just filtering it out. That's how they eat. Now the large antenna up top, they use that. It goes like that. And that's how they swim. And it makes them move like a flea. That's where they get their name, water fleas. So that motion is produced from that one antenna. Now, reproduction. That's one to behold. Let me tell you all about that. Because they don't live very long, so they got to reproduce really, 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 really fast. So in perfect conditions, with no predators around and the water's nice and lovely, they can live up to 14 months. What if the conditions are bad, or if there's predators in there, then they got less than 6 months to do their thing. But they can get it done really, really quickly. And let me tell you how it's done. So their life cycle is called cyclical parthenogenesis. That means that they can produce asexually as well as sexually. So asexual means that they can reproduce without needing to mate. So the girls don't need the boys for the first half of the year. They'll produce babies that are exact clones of them. So she'll only produce other females. Then where do the males come from? The males come later on in the year. So as the weather starts changing and it starts getting cooler, the females will start produce different types of eggs, and then males will develop out of some of the eggs. So now we have males in the water, because a female will only produce eggs every time she sheds her skin, her molt, she molt, and that's when she produces eggs. So the last round just before it gets cold has males in it. Then a few days later, those males and those females will actually mate, because those females in the later part of the year, just before it gets cold, those females will produce what they call resting eggs or winter eggs. Now these eggs are durable. They might as well be made of adamantium. I tell you what, they can survive extreme heat, extreme cold, frozen. This whole area can dry up, and those eggs will still survive because they're fertilized by the male. They'll just sit there for days, a whole season will go by. And then once the rains come back and it gets warm, those eggs will hatch. They'll all be female, and it'll start again. Females start cloning themselves, and that's how the cycle goes. That's pretty cool, right? That's nuts. So you don't need a boy, and then later on you do, to continue the species. There you have it. So I'm gonna scoop in here a bit. I see some more stuff. Looks like little shrimp. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. These are little brine shrimp. They're called Artemia.
Artemia.
People also call them sea monkeys that you get at the pet store, and you use them to feed fish.
Sea monkeys.
And they have like 11 legs on the side of them. And they use those 11 legs to swim. They're like a little shrimp. They have a little tail as well. They live in salt water. So what are they doing in this fresh water, right? They're very adaptable to different types of water. So they could be in brackish water or the fresh water. And they use their bodies to filter out the salt. So they can stand being in here, and they can stand being in salt water, which is why people feed them to their marine and their freshwater fish. They produce the real tough eggs, just like the water fleas and their eggs will sit in here and they'll last throughout the season. When rains come back and it gets warm again, the eggs will hatch and they'll be in here. But they're very sensitive and they need oxygenated water, else they'll die. But yeah, these are sea monkeys. It's a whole swarm of them in here. And there's probably more eggs in this dry areas over here because they'll just sit and wait until there's water and the climate is right. And you got sea monkeys. Ooh, I got something cool. Check this out. So this right here is called a tadpole shrimp.
Shrimp.
Or a shield shrimp, which is a tiny little crustacean that lives in fresh and even brackish water. Now, they're not a tadpole or a shrimp.
Sure ain't.
But they do look like them because they got the little tail like a tadpole and then they got the little antennas and stuff like a shrimp. You know, but they're not filter feeders. They do have little mandibles and they eat little critters down in the bottom, and they also find little, I mean, they're omnivores, so they can find whatever they want out in there. So let's talk about how they reproduce. This is pretty cool, very similar to that of the water fleas. So there's many types of these tadpole shrimp, and it's impossible to know how many species there are, but a lot of them can reproduce sexually, and then some can reproduce from self-fertilizing, which is called autogamy. Now, autogamy is similar to that of what flowering plants do. It's like self-pollination, so they don't need anyone else, but it's not like asexual because that produces clones. Now, the males, they're very interesting because they release sperm through pores because the males, they have no penis. When the females lay the eggs, they lay them down in algae, right? Now these eggs are just like the water fleas eggs, almost indestructible. They can survive just about anything. Heat, ice, severe conditions of drought. Even if something else ate them, they can survive that, and the animal like poop it out and the egg will hatch and be like, peace. So you can't stop it. And then once the rains come, the conditions are nice again, the eggs will hatch. Now, not all of them will hatch. It takes maybe 1 to 3 days for them to hatch because they don't got much time being in a little puddle. And some will hatch and some will take multiple times of rains before them to hatch. So that's how they ensure that they survive the next generation and therefore. Look at that tail. They have the long tail and they're considered a living fossil. Look at them. Look at the little crab, little feelers on the bottom. They're a living fossil because the fossils that they found that date back to 70 million years are exactly the same as this. So they haven't evolved. I guess they're already a perfect design, which is amazing.
On the topic of amazing, I would like to add that the tadpole shrimp is in the order of Notostrica, which contains the family Triopsidae. Triops and Lepidurs are included in that family, and they are considered fossils because their appearance hasn't changed much since the Jurassic period. So yes, our tadpole shrimp friend is indeed a living fossil.
Now, y'all, I'm still down here looking for frogs because I tried to catch that one earlier and he got away from me, and that just didn't sit well with me. That's all right. This is to be continued because I'm going to catch a frog next time, and I hope you're there with me too. So let me know, what did you think of all these critters that we caught out here? My personal favorite was the tadpole shrimp because he was like a little bitty dinosaur or something like that out here. Who would have thought, right? So join me on the next one. I'm going to try to catch some frogs for you guys. So I'm your adventure artist, AJ Morris, and thank you. See you on the next one because it's nature, y'all. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Just don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you thought. If you haven't already, come on now, subscribe, y'all. See you on the next one.